It has been called the second coming of Jordan, a player so dynamic and determined he can only be compared to the greatest to have ever played the game. Maybe more impressive than his clutch fourth-quarter play or a high-flying dunk may be the journey which has led Kobe Bryant to his NBA destiny.
Kobe really doesn't have this ability to second-guess himself. He spent his time going over and over in his mind, how am I going to find a way? I've got to find a way to do this. How am I going to make this happen? What can I do to make myself successful?
I definitely think you see a bright future, a future that doesn't measure or compare to anyone else's.
Does he want to be the best basketball player, just as Jordan was? Absolutely.
He's a very unusual young man. I think he's got tremendous character. I think he has a vision of what he wants to do and be.
You just have to be focused. You just have to be determined not to let anything get you down, not to let anything deter you from your path. And I was going to let what people say or even my own personal doubts interfere with my goals.
The 2000 NBA Finals. The Los Angeles Lakers lead the Indiana Pacers 2-0 as the teams head back to Indiana. But during Game 2, Kobe goes out with a bad ankle sprain.
So badly he could barely walk. Shaq's carrying him on his back coming into Conseco Fieldhouse in Indiana.
Man, I thought I broke something because I heard a pop. And I just remember laying there on the Staples Center floor just thinking, nah, this can't happen. This can't happen. I don't care if it's broke or whatever, I gotta play. I'm not gonna let this thing get me down, And that's how I remember.
The title hopes of the Lakers hung in the balance as Kobe missed Game 3 and the Lakers lost. Now with the Game 4 on the road, the Pacers look to have a chance to even the series.
Shaquille O'Neal fouls out. Kobe Bryant goes over to him. And Kobe has explained to me, people don't realize how much emotion there was in that moment. He said, I looked him right in the eyes. And I said,
I got you. I got you, big fella. And he said, okay. And we just went out there and just played. It was just like, I just got feeling like I was in the backyard again.
That was just, I think what everybody was waiting for. And we knew it was there sooner or later. And with Shaq fouling out and overtime there just presented itself. And he went there and grasped it.
I think it was the moment that led to his performance beyond that point. He felt that way in my heart. Well, now I've got to do it for us, and he went out and did it.
Bryant scored 35 points in Game 4. 8 of his points came in overtime, including baskets on 3 straight possessions to seal the game for the Lakers and ultimately the NBA title.
Yeah, that game cements it. Game 4 of the finals absolutely cements Kobe Bryant as a supremely confident, clutch player who can just rise above the rest and carry a team, carry a game, carry a moment.
He actually took the abilities that are already great within him, and he seemed to raise them to another level.
All the talk of what he was going to be able to do in his career, that was the first sign of, stepping to that level and proving everyone right.
We weren't on NBC. This wasn't the NBA Finals. There wasn't, thousands of fans in the crowd, millions of people watching on TV. It was just a game. It was just about putting the ball into the basket. And that's all it was about for me.
It doesn't surprise me because I think Kobe, in a sense, feels like that when Shaq is out of the lineup, it opens up the court a little bit more, and we expected him to deliver. We certainly hoped that he would deliver, and he did.
Right after the game, we were all obviously so high and so excited. And I get back to the hotel room that night, and I could barely sleep. And then when it's time to go to sleep, reality struck. My ankle started killing me. I mean, it was throbbing. And up to that point, I was still on this big old adrenaline rush. And then my ankle just started throbbing like crazy.
At such a young age, and with that being his first time in that position, to be able to step up and do that for him and for us, I think he kind of put a notch on his belt already as making his place for one of the greatest players to ever play the game.
When we come back, Kobe grows up under a huge shadow, but learns very quickly how to generate his own stardom. That and much more as we return to Kobe Bryant, Destiny's Child.
We now return to Kobe Bryant, Destiny's Child.
Growing up with his father, Joe Jellybean Bryant, in the NBA, it may not have been until another hardwood hero caught Kobe's eye that the dream of his own NBA greatness was sparked.
I wanted to see Magic. Just the enthusiasm that he played the game. He just loved playing, you could tell. Plus his no-look passes, and that always used to drive me nuts.
He fell in deep infatuation with Magic Johnson and the Lakers, and that was his team. He idolized Magic Johnson and was quite traumatized. It really shattered him when Magic abruptly retired in 1991 in November after announcing that he had contracted the HIV virus.
I cried. I really didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was about. I actually picked up some books, read a little bit on it, just to kind of see, as a kid, you really don't know what to do. So I'm like reading things, hopefully I can help him out in some type of way. It was very difficult.
Soon after Magic's announcement, Joe Bryant ended his playing career, packed up the family, and moved home to Philadelphia. Kobe was now in the 8th grade and in search of a high school.
His high school coach was a big influence, and it was something of a controversy because Kobe chose to go to a suburban school in Lower Merion. And so there was some controversy over that. But Kobe went where he felt comfortable. And the idea was this was a school that really hadn't had a lot of basketball success. It would have been much easier for Kobe to go to one of the Philly basketball powers.
He was so thirsty for knowledge. He was so much fun to work with. You tell him to do something and he did it without asking any questions, whether it be any part of his game, shooting, dribbling, defense, or weight room. And he really did a good job making the progression and climbing and working on his skills on a yearly basis.
My first year was very difficult. I think we were 4-20. It was a very hard year. But I gained some experience. I mean, my high school coach was a great coach. He stayed with me late after practice. He would come early to practice. We would talk about the game, and he really helped me mature and grow as a basketball player.
Well, we had a blueprint to work on his weaknesses and to work on his strengths, and a lot of my fondest memories are just those memories where we would stay later after practice and spend 60, 90 minutes shooting or working on moves, or maybe even coming in sometimes early in the morning.
Yeah, we grew together. We had people. My freshman year, I was the only freshman on the varsity team. But we had other freshmen who were on the JV team. And, they kind of came up through the ranks. And then when it was the right time for them to step up and be ready, they were ready. So when my senior year came around, I was ready to lead this team to the state championship.
In his junior year, there was talk. Kobe, in his heart of hearts, had known for some time he had entertained the thought of going directly to the NBA. As he has explained to me before, it was all he ever really wanted to do. That was his destination. He felt that young. As his high school career unfolded, he continued to entertain the idea and allowed that idea to grow.
When we come back, the idea becomes a reality.
now return to Kobe Bryant, Destiny's Child.
Kobe was now back in America, and not only was he working on his game at Lower Merion High School, but he was also cutting his teeth on an even more powerful arena, the playgrounds of Philadelphia.
They used to have a summer league in Philadelphia called the Sunny Hill League. I used to go down there. I used to play. I used to have the top players in the state of Pennsylvania come down there and play with the teams.
Well, he was an adolescent and came back, and his father knew what leagues to get him involved in the Philadelphia Summer Leagues. And Kobe soon met Eddie Jones, who was at Temple. And so Kobe very quickly came into contact with that high-grade pickup culture of hoop in Philadelphia and moved right in, and moved in precociously. He was young but had game and was going at people and got right involved at an early age.
I mean, I told everybody. I told everybody, I said, he's going to be probably the top player, one of the top players in this league if he comes, even if he comes out of high school. I said, this kid can play. I mean, you're talking at 15 years old, he could do it. And, you know, just seeing him grow each and every year, I was more and more amazed.
It was great competition, great fun. And the guys from Temple University used to come down there and watch it and check us out because we used to play in their gym at McGonigal Hall. And Eddie used to come down there, Aaron McKee used to be down there, Rick Brunson. And these guys used to play after we did. So I used to stay and just kind of check them out a little bit. And Eddie used to select me to play. He thought I had a little game, so he would pick me up and I would hoop with them.
The more Kobe played with that caliber of competition, the more it stoked his fire to jump straight to the NBA. Still, plenty of collegiate coaches, such as Duke's Mike Krzyzewski, tried to sway Kobe's decision.
It was fun. The first letter I ever received was given to me by my high school coach, and it's from West Point. That was my first recruiting letter.
If he could have gone to college, he probably would have selected Duke. The reason being that Duke kept recruiting him. Coach Mike Krzyzewski kept recruiting Kobe after other coaches, such as Dean Smith at North Carolina, backed off when they realized Kobe was determined to be a pro.
Coach K was my favorite. He was my favorite. I talked to him on the phone about 3 or 4 times maybe. I talked to a couple other coaches, but Coach K was the one I really enjoyed talking to.
There were cameras on the local level and cameras on the national level in here pretty much every day, following Kobe in the halls, coming to our practices, coming to our games, and we did get used to it. And the other kids seemed to like it.
Some people at first thought it was probably his father's idea, which was so far from the truth. His father, of course, was interested in seeing Kobe get the opportunities, but that ambition is purely Kobe Bryant's. It's not Joe Bryant's.
And looking back, I don't really know exactly where it came from. I remember reading something about Magic playing against professional players when he was in high school, and that kind of triggered an idea. But during that summer, I played against pro players all summer long with the 76ers or whatever. And I think that kind of got us started a little bit, too.
One day I got a phone call at the house, and it was Jerry West, who I've grown up with, and he with me. And he said, I just had a guy try out. We got to get. And I said, what's his name? He said, Kobe Bryant. I said, what school did he go to? He said, he's a high schooler. I said, you got to be crazy.
You know, we'd have an opportunity to work him out on a couple of occasions, and to be quite honest with you, his workouts were really startling. This is a very gifted young man.
In fact, when Jerry had him in that day, he put him against Michael Cooper one-on-one. And Cooper was one of the best defenders I've ever seen. He took Cooper apart. First thing I did is run to the phone and call West. And I said, geez, you're smarter than I thought you were. This kid's got it all.
Up until that point, I thought Jerry West really didn't like high school kids coming straight to the NBA.
Draft day came around. We had been talking to Charlotte about a possible deal, and I told them if Kobe
would get to number 13 in the draft, that they would have a deal with us.
You know, after I was drafted, and you're supposed to go into this room and talk to the people who, you know, who drafted you. So I'm on the phone with Dave Cowens, and you know, he's like, well, you know, we really can't have much. We don't have too much use for you here in Charlotte. You can't really come in and help us out too much. So we're thinking of trading you, you know, to Los Angeles. Okay, all right, that's cool.
He's going to wear number 8. And Kobe, this is for you. Thank you very much. You know.
Well, of course, his love is the Lakers. That was such a long shot. But I think if you had to describe a place for Kobe, it would be as the man. And that sounds silly, but that's really his vision. He wanted to be the dominant player in pro basketball. And that has been his focus all along. He's had to learn to set that aside for team issues. But Kobe all along has wanted to dominate.
But before dominating, Kobe would have to learn how to fit in. And that would not be easy. That and more when we return.
We now return to Kobe Bryant, Destiny's Child.
Kobe had little trouble adapting to a new high school, but this was an entirely different matter. Kobe jumped straight to the NBA and was faced with opponents as well as teammates who didn't think he belonged.
It was a difficult time, you know, aside from the fact that I broke my wrist. And I had to miss all of training camp with a broken wrist because I decided to play in a pickup game at Venice Beach. You know, when you love the game, you love the game. You know, when you have to play, you just have to play. You know, I broke my wrist, so I missed the entire training camp. So that kind of made things a little more difficult.
A lot of us always felt that, you know, once you or your family or members of your circle make the decision to make this jump to the NBA, then, you know, you're judged on the ruler or the standard that we're all judged by.
And of course, when you have a youngster come into camp, the older players try to take advantage of him. They want to find out, how good is this guy? And they found out in a hurry.
Well, he had things working against him as a young player. He was like a puppy let out of a box, and he was all over the place, full of this excitement and enthusiasm and delight. And that was how Larry Drew, then the Lakers assistant coach, who was in charge of that first LA Summer League, described Kobe. He was just high octane in everything he did and trying to do it all and take it all on.
There was some tension even within the organization, disagreements about where to put him. And ultimately, they decided, let him come off the bench, let him learn, come along slowly, and see where that leads.
Kobe struggled throughout that first year with the Lakers, playing in 71 games and averaging only 7 points. It was a tough season on and off the court.
I never really felt out of my element, except for when the game was over and practices were over. Because then, you know, because of the age difference, I didn't have anything in common with these guys.
I don't think there was any personal animosity towards Kobe of any kind, which I feel like a lot of people felt like guys were envious or jealous of his position. But really, in a way, I think, you know, guys enjoyed the fact that if I was his age and I had the same abilities he has, I would have done the same thing.
He's kind of a loner, even now. He's not a big social bug. He stays pretty much with his family, and he is not out night clubbing and doing all the things that many stars do. And that's not a criticism of those that do. I'm just telling you how he is. He's very much a loner, quiet to himself.
What I saw was a young man who had basketball in his mind, you know, all the time. And the exciting thing about that is, you know, at that age, at 17, there's a lot of things that interest kids other than, you know, professional sports. And he seemed to have a way of hyper-focusing in on what his goals were. And with all the distractions of being an NBA player at that age, He obviously was sheltered well by his parents and his family, but he was able to keep his focus in the right place.
On most levels, Kobe's rookie season should have been regarded as a success, the youngest player to ever play in a league game. At the All-Star Weekend, Kobe scored a record 31 points in the rookie game and even won the Slam Dunk Championship. By the playoffs, Kobe was still seeing limited playing time, and he was being set up for the biggest disappointment of his young career in the '97 playoff series against Utah.
Del Harris's philosophy as the coach was, we need to bring him along slowly. He's just a teenager. Let's not put too much pressure on him.
And then suddenly the whole season comes down to this playoff sequence against Utah. And here the Lakers were facing this veteran team, and the only player really capable of getting his shot, it seemed, and really confident of getting and taking that shot was this high school kid.
Del Harris does put the responsibility on him. He goes out, he takes the three-pointers, he airballs, I think, 3 in a row.
He didn't stop after the second one. It's almost as though he became even more determined to put that ball in the basket at that point in time.
I remember being disappointed in the decision to put him in that position, and not because I didn't think he was capable of doing it, but I felt like at that time and where we were as a team, I felt like, Nick Van Exel would have been a better choice if you had to pick one guy, because Nick had experience in hitting big shots for the Lakers in the past, and he had been there before.
What frustrated me the most is I knew I could make those shots. I mean, I don't care what anybody else said, how they viewed it, how they felt, say I was too young to take those shots or whatever. I knew I could make those shots. But at the same time, there was doubt in my mind because I didn't make those shots. So I was out to prove to myself that I can do it. I can do it. This side of your brain that's telling you can make them, you're right. And this other side's telling you can't, you're wrong. That was the huge challenge that I was faced with.
You could tell just from the moment and the way that it happened, those are the types of things as an athlete and as a competitor that burns in your stomach for months and for years. And I'm sure even with all the success that we've enjoyed since then, it's still something that's very vivid in Kobe's mind.
I think that at that time, more than any other time that I can recall, his age, his immaturity came to the fore. And I think, though, for him, it was a great lesson. I think it was a teaching lesson.
It short-circuited everything except Kobe's ambition and his belief in himself. It was a setback, but a temporary thing. He was back in the gym the very next morning after the playoffs ended, firing away. Jumper upon jumper upon jumper. Thousands of shots every day. Mind-numbing work.
When we come back, more disappointment for Kobe and the Lakers. But on the horizon, hope was on the way. After the disappointment of his rookie year, Kobe began his sophomore season determined not to become just another NBA player.
Oh, it was big. Yeah, it was big. I was out to prove that I'm not going to fall off of a cliff. I'm not just going to disappear because of what happened in the playoffs the previous year. Now I'm back, and I'm ready to improve, and I'm ready to help this team.
After going through one season as an NBA player, there are so many things that you get a feel for that give you a new perspective on how I can become a better basketball player. And just getting that one season under his belt was pretty much all he needed to figure out that he could play in this league and at a very high level.
Still coming off the bench, Kobe nearly doubled his output in every statistical category. But despite winning 61 games during the 97-98 season, the Lakers are swept in the Western Conference Finals by the Jazz. Then in a strike-shortened 98-99 season, Kobe, to his own amazement, was going to begin his third season once again from the bench.
Fate steps in. Rick Fox and Robert Horry aren't there on opening night. Lakers opening against the Houston Rockets, and Kobe goes and starts at small forward against Scottie Pippen. And this is Pippen's debut with Houston as well. Kobe flat out dominates him. Offensively, defensively. I think he stole him 3 times, scored a ton of points. Pippen did nothing. Kobe gets a double-double in his first start.
A lot of things went on in that season. And from a team's perspective, it was a constant struggle. constant struggle, and it wore down on us emotionally. And, you know, when you start to wear down emotionally, then it starts breaking you down physically. And it was tough.
The question mark was always whether or not Dale Harris would stick around, and the strike shortened season comes and Dale gets fired and Kurt Rambis steps in. And, you know, through all of this adversity and changes, you know, the Laker organization made a decision that I think everyone had to accept.
It got to the point by the third year where Shaquille O'Neal was telling anyone and everyone who would listen, we can't win with Kobe Bryant. He would say it in team meetings. He would say it to Kobe's face. He would say it behind his back. He said it everywhere.
As Kobe's talents began to emerge, so did the conflicts with Shaquille O'Neal, and battle lines were being drawn on an already fragile Laker team. It was during this time of turmoil that Kobe began his relationship with 78-year-old assistant coach Tex Winter. Tex was done coaching the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan, but Kobe wanted to know everything that Tex knew.
Well, I remember it took me by surprise. Suddenly, Kobe Bryant, as a matter of fact, initially I thought, well, this must be some joke, somebody trying to pull my leg. And it took me by surprise, but he just wanted to visit about basketball generally. And soon I realized it was truly Kobe Bryant on the line, and we had quite a conversation just about basketball generally.
Kobe was having all this trouble with his teammates, and he was asking himself, am I a selfish player? Am I doing the wrong things? And Tex Winter looked at the tapes and said, I don't think you're a selfish player. You're trying to do the right things. It's just that the team and the offense and things aren't structured for you to do the right things.
And I gave him a call, and we talked a little bit about the offense, and he said, you know, whenever you want to give me a call, you know, just give me a call. And I said, okay, I will. And we had a nice conversation. I think it was about a half-hour conversation. Then next season, he's here.
I just had a chance to meet Kobe Bryant. He came upstairs before I came down here, and I think that from what I see of that player, he's dedicated. He's competitive. He reminds me a lot of Michael Jordan, and there's not too many players that have ever done that in this game.
I found him to be very serious about the game, which is kind of what I've expected, you know, from talking to some of his players like Scotty. You know, I mean, conversations that I had with them just about generic stuff, it's just about generic things. But then when we start talking about basketball, it's like their whole demeanor changes and just completely in another world, just zoned out and very serious. And those are one of the first things I picked up about Phil.
So there was all this anger within the Lakers when the coaches got there. And when the coaches arrived, they could not believe this level of intense feeling on the part of the Laker veterans against this young 20-year-old kid. It was amazing to them.
I think right away, just his name and what he had accomplished before, you know, completely changed the direction of our team.
For the first time, Kobe saw a coach who he could really look up to, respect, revere, if you will. You know, Phil has that aura about him. It's undeniable. It's the way he carries himself, as well as the fact that he had 6 championship rings coming in, the fact that he coached Michael Jordan.
Well, I think, you know, knowing Phil was just trying to figure me out a little bit. One of the things I told him, I said, there's nothing to figure out. I'm just here. I'm just trying to play the game and just trying to learn the game as much as I possibly can. And once we got that established, you know, we started moving a little bit.
Phil Jackson came in and said, we're not going to win a championship in the first year. In fact, we're going to start slow. It's going to be a struggle. These guys have to learn a new system. You know, maybe by the second year we'll be competing for a championship. Well, to his great surprise, to the players' I think, surprise on some level, too. To everyone's surprise, they have this incredible season and win the championship.
This summer I was able to kind of sit back as I watched and studied and see what I had to do to come back the next season. I really found it very enjoyable, and I was very pleased with the results that we had that season.
For Kobe, getting started at such a young age, winning a championship with only other guys maybe like Magic, you know, winning a championship at such a young age and being a part of something great, you know, I'm sure for him emotionally it was something that he just couldn't even compare to anything else. And I think it just kind of set the stage for many wonderful years to come, not only for him, but for our entire team and the organization. And I think that is really what kind of now adds to the frustrations that we go through now.
Success comes for the Lakers and Kobe, but the comparisons will always be there. How does Kobe stack up against the greatest to have ever played the game? That when we return to Kobe Bryant, Destiny's Child. Robert Browning writes, "A man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what is heaven for?" For Kobe, the reach is indeed very far. There is no one to be compared to other than Michael Jordan. The comparisons are inevitable, but the definitive answer is many years away. But to say Kobe is on the right track is not that far of a reach.
Getting Kobe to talk about what Michael means or stands for as a goal or anything is difficult now because he's had so many years of people trying to compare him to Michael and trying to make him the next Michael. Long before he even had, maybe even earned that status, they were comparing him and putting those two together and superimposing them and calling him Air Jordan, H-E-I-R, Jordan. I think that was tough on Kobe.
The minute he came into the league and then the minute they started making these comparisons and expectations, that brings on an awful lot of pressure.
It really seems more and more like Kobe is really turning into Michael Jordan, and by that I mean it looks like he's even studied tapes of how Michael handles himself during press conferences.
I think as Kobe matures, he is going to become every bit the fierce, demanding leader that Michael Jordan was. Michael Jordan was absolutely on top of every single player on that Chicago Bulls roster, punching every psychological button, looking behind every motive, leaving nothing unturned, ruthless, relentless. I think Kobe, in his way, will approximate that.
I don't know, it's a big order. Jordan was so great in every facet of the game. Rebounding, passing, scoring big numbers, leading the team. Whether or not Kobe can become that kind of a complete player, I don't know. Because you see, Michael never had to have a center, a great center. Like Shaq, takes a lot off of the all-around skills of the guard, which Kobe is.
He imitates a lot of the things that Michael did on the court after shots, the way he kind of winks at the crowd. It seems that he has gone out of his way to study Michael Jordan, which is not a bad guy to study.
Besides on the court, the other comparisons to Michael are in other arenas: business, marketing, commercials, websites. Kobe is involved in all of them. Kobe has national endorsement deals with at least 10 different companies, including his two biggest, Adidas and McDonald's.
He's definitely the next Michael as far as endorsements are concerned. You got McDonald's and the pop and soda people. Everybody is looking for this guy.
15% or I walk.
Walk, drive, whatever, but get your own. I try to learn from all the sponsors that I have, though. Yeah, I'm very interested in that side of things, to see how their business operates and how they make it stand on their 2 feet.
And action. Kobe. Do you comprehend the power you have right there in your hands? Heir apparent? This is mega, baby. The next big thing. Ready to do this?
It's very enjoyable. I think as the years went on, I've grown to appreciate things a lot more. And how the lighting works, how certain camera angles work, and this, that, and the other. And I've really grown to appreciate what they do. When a sponsor comes to me and they would like me to endorse their product, obviously I have to put my best foot forward. So I have to know what are their goals, what do they need me to do to help this thing improve and to help sell their product and to help make things work. So I'm very serious about that side of things.
Kobe is involved in several charities. He set up the Kobe Bryant Foundation, whose main goal is to help children improve their lives.
I just love being around them. There's such an innocence and just such a love for life and appreciation of things. That it's difficult to find in people as they grow older and become more affected by society. All of us tend to lose that innocence. And just being around kids, you can still look into the eyes, you can still see that. You know, everything else that you might go through throughout the day that's a little stressful just falls right off.
Just as serious was the mounting tension that developed this season between Shaq and Kobe. When we return, the Laker family feud, real or imaginary.
We now return to Kobe Bryant, Destiny's Child.
Beginning this season, set to defend their NBA title, the Laker team was rocked by a rift between Kobe and center Shaquille O'Neal. No one could be quite clear how much the controversy affected the team and Kobe.
I've said many times, and I believe this firmly, that Michael, if he'd had a dominating center, scoring someone that was called upon to score for us as a center, as we call upon Shaq, that Michael would have had a very, very difficult time leading the league in scoring. This is one of the things that's created a little difficulty with the relationship between Kobe and Shaq.
He really lost the joy for the game. He said, "This is miserable. All of this fighting, all of this stuff, I never saw people thinking of me this way. I never foresaw that suddenly everyone would look at me as this selfish jerk."
I think both of them have tried their best to handle it the best way that they know how, but you know, I'm sure it's hard. Kobe's in a different place in his life, in his career, and Shaq's in a different place, and to expect both of those guys to always agree and be on the same page is not fair to either one of them.
For those of us out here who write about it or who talk about it or otherwise analyze it, it's always either Shaq and Kobe hate each other and they can't coexist, and it's a, you know, tug of war for the control of the team and so forth, and it's one extreme, or it's those who are within the team who want to make it out that there's no problem at all, who say, everything's fine.
There's some people that, you know, I think want to feed it. And I don't know who those people are, but there's some people out there that really want to see us fail and want to keep feeding this Shaq, Kobe, my discomfort with my players.
They're arguably the best at their position, each of them in the league, and by far the best 1-2 punch in the league. And they both know that and will occasionally even admit it. But the question is, how well can they function together?
It's a lot of baloney. It's a myth. Magic and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, they didn't go to dinner every night. In fact, they seldom went out together, unless it was with a group on the team.
We had a team meeting probably a couple of months ago, and you know, that's when a lot of the talk and everything was still kind of hot about those two guys not really being able to get along, and you know, they just couldn't stand each other and all of this stuff. And you know, I think a lot of people, you know, including guys on our team, question whether or not, you know, Kobe really wanted to be a part of our group and wanted to do what was best for not only him but for our team.
I remember Rick Fox and I talked about it. And, you know, one of the things I said is, you know, this is going to be a test of our character. You know, what type of people are we? Are we going to let this thing kind of destroy us? Or are we going to let it break us apart? Are we that type? Are we that weak-minded? Or are we going to be strong and let it bind us together and fight together? And so it was a nice test for us as a team to see what we can endure.
That particular day, you know, he stood up and said, you know, he cared about everybody on his team and that he wanted to win, and you know, all of this stuff that's being said about, you know, it being his team and that, you know, he doesn't like Shaquille or doesn't think the offense is supposed to go through him. He said, "I love, you know, Shaq like a big brother and always have, and you know, I just want to go out and play and have fun and win, and you know, that's what I'm here for."
Well, most of the time they function pretty damn well together. You know, if they have differences of opinion on things, and they do, it's not necessarily always apparent out on the floor.
I had to miss the second half of a game recently in Houston, and I went in our locker room, the Lakers locker room, to watch it on TV. And Kobe was out with a bad ankle. He's laying on the floor on his back watching the TV set up above. And I wanted to see what he did on certain situations, how he would react if Shaq did something good or bad. And every time Shaq made a great play, and he made many of them, Kobe was applauding. Way to go, big fella. That's it. Go, Shaq. Wild enthusiasm. He likes the guy, and the guy likes him.
We cannot be a championship team without Shaq. In my mind, we can't be a championship team without Kobe. They need each other, and I think they do understand that.
The Lakers finished the regular season strong this year by winning their last 8 games and seemed to cruise into the playoffs with all the Kobe-Shaq controversy behind them. More exciting than watching the Lakers defend their NBA title may be the future which lies ahead for their young superstar, Kobe Bryant.
He has an air about him, an aura. I think it spells intelligence. I think it spells ambition. His goal is to succeed as high as or higher than anyone that's ever played the game at his position.
If he continues with the type of mindset that he has, just about getting better, about improving, about always being the best and just never wanting to lose, I don't think his future has a down day in it.
I think he is a pure spirit. I think he is as good a news as there is in modern life. Someone supremely dedicated, someone very, very hardworking, someone determined to do it the right way.
Nothing comes easy, though. Success does not come easy. And I want to have it no other way. Because then when you get to the top, you really appreciate what you've been through so much more.
I think other guys noticed that Kobe was slowly starting to become more open with certain guys on the team, and even with Shaquille, their relationship started to develop where they were enjoying one another's company more, and you could see Kobe interacting with more guys on the bus, on the plane.
I see a whole lot more laughter going on in the locker room. I see him involved with his teammates in a lot of laughter and a lot of joking, and I don't think he's ever been withdrawn, but I think he's been sort of standoffish in a way. And no, I see development in this respect. But I think that he is starting to recognize there is something beside basketball. I hope he does anyway, because there's a great deal beside basketball.
After a long engagement, Kobe finally announced his marriage to Vanessa Lane. Just another step down the road of maturity for Kobe Bryant.
Proud father, a great husband. That's success to me. I just live in the moment and just enjoy life to the fullest. I set goals, but that's about as much as I'll ever look into the future.